Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk all about Mistborn, or The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. You know, this month I'm foraying into the world of adult fantasy, and this was kind of one of my first adult fantasy books I've ever read. I have read a few before, but I would say this month I'm really delving into the genre, and this one has come recommended to me a number of times. Like, this is the one I hear the most. When people say adult fantasy, they say Mistborn is a great place to start. Older book. It was originally published as adult fantasy, but years ago they decided to republish it and kind of rebrand it and throw it out there into the world again and kind of market it more as YA. So is this book series adult or young adult? That is the question. Answer it, I would say it's both. I think it could be an adult fantasy book, but I also think it could be YA fantasy. And the reason I say that is because we have two main characters, especially in this first book. One of them is an adult, so it could easily be an adult fantasy. The other one is a 16-year-old girl. It could easily be a young adult fantasy. I would say it does read more like an adult fantasy book, in my opinion. I would say it's a good stepping stone to adult fantasy. No, it is not as epic and as really intense detail as most adult fantasy books are. This one's a good stepping stone to get there. So I think it's honestly going to be to each individual opinion whether you classify this as an adult or YA. I see more of it as an adult fantasy. That's just my opinion. But enough about that. This video, I'm going to tell you all about what this book is about, what I thought about it. I will talk briefly about spoilers at the end. So if you're interested in reading Mistborn, or as it's commonly known as The Final Empire, I believe they renamed it Mistborn. So the Mistborn series, I forget exactly what the appropriate name for the series is, but yeah, this is the first book in it. Mistborn, pretty much 1,000 years ago, this big epic event happened, and one hero is supposed to rise and save the day, only he didn't, and evil won, and evil has been ruling ever since. So we have had this evil Lord Ruler that has been ruling for over 1,000 years, and the whole place is kind of dark. At night, mist comes and everybody's scared of the mist. Ashes fall directly all the time. It's just a very dark and desolate place. Then comes along a big rebellion. That is where this book really picks up, where this rebellion is going to happen, and they're going to take down the Lord Ruler, and they're finally going to reclaim, you know, good, and they're going to defeat evil once and for all. And we also have these people that are mistings, where they can ingest metals and they could use metal. They can burn metals. Every metal has a different purpose. People that can burn metals, if they burn a particular one, they have like a nickname. Like for a soother, that is a person who can ingest brass, the brass metal, and what they do with that is they soothe emotions. So they could just, like, in case you're really tense or anything like that, they can soothe your emotions. Then we have tin eyes, who can ingest tin and they can enhance senses, so you can hear things from far away, you can see things, you can just feel everything around you. So we have these mistings that are very rare. Not a lot of them are out there, but they're rare, that they can ingest metal. And then we also have two main characters. We have Kelsier and we have Vin, and both of them are Mistborn. Mistborns are quite different than mistings because they can ingest all 8 metals. So they can ingest all of them, they can have all of these different powers, and they are very rare, very elusive, and very powerful. So Kelsier is the adult in this book, and he kind of takes Vin under his wing to teach her about being a Mistborn, and he tracks her into his gang to try to defeat the evil Lord Ruler and do all the political things and teach her. And that is basically what this book is about. I'd say the breaking it down is about evil has won, the good guy is not won, evil has won, and they're trying to take down the evil, and they also can ingest these metals that are powerful and things like that to use. And I really enjoyed it. I kind of knew I was gonna love it because everybody loved it, and I just had a feeling that I would love it, and I did. I really enjoyed it. I will say the first half of the book is kind of slow. You have a lot of world building, you have a lot of character development, a lot of introductions to people and things like that. The magic system is very easy to get on board with learning the metals. I love how there was a chart at the back that shows you exactly what all their names were, what metals they could ingest, and what their powers they could get from those metals. I love that. But I found the world to be easy to get immersed in. It wasn't overly intense or in depth. It was in depth, but it wasn't to the point where I was like, this goes way beyond my stretch of the imagination. I am not truly, I would say, an epic fantasy reader. Hand me Game of Thrones, I would probably be like, I don't know what to do in my life. That's just me personally, so take all of this with a grain of salt as a kind of newbie to fantasy. So yeah, just know that. But I would say the world building and like the introduction to the world, I very much understood. It was a concept I grasped. I got a hold of it and I ran with it. I enjoyed it. I love the politicalness of this because, you know, the Lord Ruler rules, but he also has these houses and people that have more political intrigue and things like that. I love that we got two different perspectives. One from an adult male who has had a lot of hardships in his life, has kind of overcome a lot of evil, and is now wanting to face the evil. And I also love that we got the point of view from a 16-year-old girl who has also had a lot of hardships. She's very untrustworthy. She doesn't trust people well, and she has a hard time, you know, trusting anybody really. But to see them team together and her going into this gang of like all these mistings and try to take down the evil, I really enjoyed. This is a 3-book series. I've heard the series is amazing. I do plan to continue forward with it. Overall for rating, I would give it a 5. I know I said the first half was slow, but the ending more than made up for it in my opinion. The ending, wow. It wasn't a cliffhanger by any means, but it left me wanting more. I'll just say that. Overall, I would say if you are getting into fantasy and you want to read more adult fantasy or just trying to get into the genre and you don't know where to start, I think Mistborn is a great stepping stone for that. YA to fantasy. It helps bridge the gap a little bit. So I would recommend it. I plan to continue the series, and I don't know much else to say about this book because I don't want to spoil it for you. It is a very long book, but I basically told you what the book is about. I will say the ending was really good. Kind of off my heart. I will say the ending was really good. Didn't see anything coming, but overall I enjoyed it. I think it was a great adult fantasy book, and I definitely want to read more Brandon Sanderson. I get it now. Everybody and their mother loves Brandon Sanderson. I get it. I want to read all of his books now, slowly but surely. So I'm going to talk a little bit about spoilers now, particularly about the end, because I just want to hear people's opinions and I just want to talk about it. So if you haven't read this book, please do not watch any further because I don't want to spoil it for you. But if you have read it, please continue watching. So spoilers starting now. So the ending, the big ending of what I love and simultaneously hated too, is that Kelsier died. And I say I love and hated it because I hated it because he died, because I thought he was a very well-grounded character and a well-developed character, and I really cared for Kelsier. And I loved it because that showed me that this is not a YA fantasy series. I feel like, especially nowadays, a lot of YA fantasy series are kind of cookie cutter endings, which I don't hate necessarily, but I don't love it. I feel like there's no really real reason to be worried about characters in YA fantasy books. Like, especially with certain series, like everybody ends up okay in the end, everybody's all happy, everything's great, which I'm okay with, but there has to be, I feel like, and especially in a fantasy series, there's gotta be some deaths, because I just feel like that is important, and especially feels like there should be probably deaths within our main cast, because that's just the life and trial of fantasy books. Because there's always usually an epic war, an epic battle, and usually 9 times out of 10 in YA fantasy books, everybody comes out unscathed, and I just don't find that realistic. I mean, I like it, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm happy that all of the characters I love are okay and can face another day, but I don't find it very realistic. So the fact that Kelsier died just reminded me, wait, this ain't no YA fantasy series. This is an adult one. One of our main characters died in the first book. So obviously there's going to be some real consequences to what these people do. That's another thing I find lacking in YA fantasy books, is the characters have powers and things, but they don't have really any consequences of what they do. Like, they can just walk out unscathed and like be the best. Like, no, like Kelsier is strong and powerful, but he died and he staged it too. Like, it's like, and he planned it all along. Like, it was just insane, and I really appreciated it that Sanderson took it that far and killed off one of his main characters of the book. Didn't see it coming, but it just goes to show me that this is going to be a much more in-depth and richer fantasy series than what I'm used to. Now, I'm not knocking YA fantasy series. There are some where characters I've loved have died, and there's some that I think are really in-depth fantasy series for YA. That's not knocking all YA fantasy series by any means. I still enjoy a good YA fantasy series any day of the week, but I just think this was a great one because it showed what happened. At the end, we killed the Lord Ruler. I was not expecting that. I was expecting this to be a 3-book arc of defeating the Lord Ruler. I did not expect us to win that battle the very first book. And it just goes to show you this is going to be much bigger than the Lord Ruler. Like, this was just one little thing that they did that would help it. But I don't know what evil's going to come next, but it's going to be something bigger because Lord Ruler was already pretty freaking big. And the fact that he wasn't even then, oh, this whole time you get diaries, the snippets of this diary, and you're like, who is this? And you learn it's the, I forget his name, the guy who was supposed to save the whole thing, and you thought that he succumbed to the evil. But no, his like freaking like person, assistant, I don't know, betrayed him, killed him, and he's the Lord Ruler. Like, what? Didn't see that coming. Great plot twist. I appreciated it. I thought it was very well rounded. Would have never guessed it. I'm kind of into it. I'm really into it. I really enjoyed this book. I cannot wait to read more of this series because I just can't see where he's going to go from there. I'm also worried about some characters because if Kelsey died in the first book, I don't know who's going to die in the second or third, but probably somebody really important. So I'm going to have to gear my heart up for that before I get to the second and third. So I've heard the second book is very much slower and not the best of the series. You will have to let me know if you agree or not, which book is your favorite in the series, because I do plan to continue the series, hopefully finish it this year if, you know, I can. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm very happy I read it. I think it was a great book to start off my fantasy month with. I'm happy I read it, and I can't wait to read more Brandon Sanderson. I know a lot of people recommend Warbreaker, which my library does not have, unfortunately, and I'm kind of strapped for funds, so libraries like my one true like saving grace. So if you know of any other Brandon Sanderson books that you would recommend that I would like, please let me know because I want to read more of his books. And if you know any books that are kind of similar to Mistborn, or because I love this one, what other books, what other adult fantasy books I would like as well. I would love your comments and recommendations because I do take those to heart. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions about Mistborn, whether you loved it, didn't. I would love to talk to you guys all about it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it wasn't too rambly and crazy of a review because I'm not the best, I feel like, at reviewing fantasy quite yet. Hopefully one day I will get there, but not quite there yet. So I apologize for this really insanity of a review. Hope that's okay. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.